Should Nick Sirianni remain the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles? Not will he remain. The question today is should he remain? I think there's a big difference in that question. And we're going to tackle that, maybe a little Sixers, whatever else comes up today, trending in the AM. Right here on Philadelphia Sports Network, we're live with your answers to the question of the day in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You know the drill, those likes, those shares, retweet buttons. It's very important that you hit those for me this morning. Help to continue to grow the algorithm, grow the channel. Also shows the support there of this great morning show as we continue to move it forward. And I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, every morning here. You can find me on all social media platforms at Bearded Knowledge. And I'm asking a very simple question today. Not will Nick Sirianni be fired. Not will he be moved on from. Should he be moved on from? I think there's a clear distinction in that question, will and should. And I think the should is what Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie need to ask themselves. Should they fire him? Is one disaster, is one season collapse enough? Should they fire Nick Sirianni? The Nick Sirianni conversation and the stay or go conversation is going to be hotly debated for a few days now. As the Eagles go through their exit interviews with the players today, and then later today, tomorrow, the coaches do their thing with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. And over this process, they're going to have to sit down, the two of them, and really figure out what's going on. What is up, Eric? How you doing this morning? Welcome to the show. Should Nick Sirianni be fired? And yes, not morning, afternoon to those that are nowhere near the East Coast. Good afternoon, Zach. How you doing today? Duck, what is up, my man? I don't know. He has a good win-loss percentage, even with the meltdown. I just don't like that he didn't adjust to do anything to put a good product out there. So, and again, and there's no clear-cut answer. It's a very debatable. If I say, yes, he should be fired, you can give me a very good reason why he shouldn't. But see, the point I'm getting at here with the question being should. You know, somebody was talking to me yesterday. I forget whether it was on social media or at the pizza shop. Fox's Pizza Den in Kennett Square. Thanks, Adam, for the shout out in the comments there. Appreciate that, my man. Somebody asked, like, you just hire somebody else and give him a 5-week window, you know what I mean, to see if he can get it, right the ship, right the locker room. If you're going to fire him in 5 weeks into this next season, why don't you just do it now? And Eric, I see your comment here. Fire Howie. That is the answer. And I want to make sure I get clear. I was going to get into Howie at some point today, Eric, because it's one of the things I tweeted out yesterday, one of the things I have in my notes here for today. The fact that Howie seems to be safe. We know Howie's safe in Jeffrey Lurie's eyes. Howie's always safe in Jeffrey Lurie's eyes. Okay? But the fact that enough of the fans don't want to put any of the blame on Howie Roseman for this collapse is shocking. Howie went from one of the most hated men to one of the most beloved men in this city very fast. And it seems like criticism of Howie is not acceptable. When Howie's thumbprint, actually his palm print, his face print, he's literally all over this team. And at what point do we start really pushing Jeffrey Lurie to maybe make a change there? Because as long as Howie Roseman is in charge, we're going to still have this vicious cycle. New coach, new system, new quarterback. Get to the top, completely collapsed right away, started over. It's a rinse and repeat cycle with him. So I don't know. At some point, he's going to have to be under the hot scope microscope. Uh, TMC, you're still on timeout mode. Don't ever trash Jason Kelsey on my show. Whose idea was Matt Patricia? And whoever's idea that was should also be fired. I don't know whose idea it was to move to Patricia in mid-season. I do know at some point I read that K1 that bringing Patricia in was Lori's idea because of his love of Patriots' way of doing things. Although then you get the King Eskin saying yesterday that Lori hates Bill Belichick. I don't know. I don't know what the idea there. Normally I'd say Nick should be kept, but with some of the coaching talent, this is a fantastic comment, Zach. It's like you're reading my mind. I think I had that in a tweet last night that I deleted because there wasn't enough characters too. You're reading my mind. There's a deep coaching talent pool this year. There's only 7 jobs left. Belichick, Carroll, Harbaugh, Vrabel. 4 of them are going to get taken up by that. Then you got Ben Johnson and some other names. Then there's the guys that nobody's talking about. This is a deep. Why wait till 2025 to make the change? If you think if Nick Sirianni cannot get this shit right away, you just move on now. There is a deep talent pool at coach right now. And I love that Zach and I sometimes are on such the same wavelength. And I'm going to bring up a name in a minute once I get caught up on these comments that I tweeted out last night. What I don't understand that he didn't see what happened with Patricia being promoted. I saw it coming in. Yeah, I guess there was always that writing on the wall to Desai. Well, that's what we kind of wanted with offense. We wanted a guy that, was veteran that could slide in if Sirianni was fired or a quarterback coach. Like, we wanted somebody more experienced on the offensive side. So we should have seen that coming. It's just obvious that wasn't the right answer. That's the biggest problem. He has a chance to hire a 4th coach. All right, when Nick Sirianni, when Doug Peterson got fired, and Nick Sirianni got hired, it was multiple networks ago. It was a couple of years ago. I wasn't doing a daily show, but I sat on the channel I was working for at the time, and I said the same thing. We're into it. This has got to be his last chance. But here we are. He took us back to it. He helped to get us to another Super Bowl. That's a problem. But for as bad as he is, he's also very good in certain things. So it's very hard. Even though he's made so many mistakes with the coach and stuff like that, he's still a top 5, top 7 GM. So that's a problem right there. And then I got it. Eric's bringing the fire. Julian Laurie has some say too. That's the future of the team right there. Laurie's fingerprints are all over Patricia. Absolutely. Howie idea was Patricia. Everybody's idea. So here's the thing. I asked this before the playoffs, and I asked it again yesterday on Twitter, and I'll ask it again to the show here. If Nick Sirianni was fired today, would he have a job as a head coach in 2024? And before you answer that, also answer the Howie portion of it. Howie Roseman was fired today. Would he have a job as a GM in 2024? And the answer is Nick Sirianni would not be a head coach in 2024. With the talented player pool or coaching pool that is out there right now, there's no way Sirianni might not even get an offensive coordinator position next year. I disagree with you, K1. Sirianni would not be immediately hired. But Howie Roseman absolutely would be hired within 20 seconds. And that's the difference of why you keep Howie and you don't keep Sirianni. What the league would think. I strongly disagree that after this collapse, that Nick Sirianni would be coaching in 2024. Maybe he'd be a wide receiver coach, an offense consultant, assistant head coaching role. Something like that, but he would not be a head coach in 2024. What's up, Maurice? This collapse is indicative of distrust. It's just a matter of where it's coming from. Either way, those players didn't play for the coach, didn't play for each other, and didn't play for us. And you're 100% accurate in all this. And if they're not playing for their coach, doesn't that mean it's time they should move on from him? I don't care that he's made the playoffs 3 years in a row. I don't care that he just took us to the Super Bowl. I want to know what he didn't do it this year. I want to know what he's going to do next year. And he better sell himself. It's almost his exit interview is almost like another job interview for him to stay. There's no reason that Jeffrey Lurie wouldn't be afraid to cut ties. He's cut ties with coaches plenty of times very quickly. He has a much quicker trigger figure than people realize just because of Andy Reid. The players don't trust him. The players don't trust his play designs, his schemes, his philosophies. You got to move on. You just got to. So to me, Maurice's comments basically answer the question, should he be fired? As yes. Again, as Zach said, and as I was already thinking, as I was already ready to talk about, there's a deep coaching pool right now. There's a very deep pool. Young, upstart creative minds like Ben Johnson and Slowick. You got the big name in Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick. You got Vrabel. There are names out there. There's only so many jobs. You could have the opportunity to get the right guy now. And in 2025, we don't know who's going to be available. It's a totally different situation. So you make that move now. Maybe. Not sure if the answer. How he would be hired by another team before the ink dried. Absolutely agree. And that's why, although he struggled, although he would be technically on his fourth coaching, interview cycle, you still keep him because Howie doesn't lose a locker room. Howie does have too much say in the locker room, but him losing the locker room doesn't really affect him being fired or not. I say that there's a definite, strong argument to be made that he's got to go. Jeffrey Lurie. Or not Jeffrey, well, Jeffrey Lurie. Nick Sirianni. What the hell was Vrabel done as head coach? I agree to an extent with that, K1. When he was fired and instantly catapulted to the top of everybody's list of head coaching candidates, I was like, why? He made one run in the playoffs. 5 years. For 6 years coaching, 3 years he missed the playoffs. 3 years he made it. Twice he was one and done. He would bring discipline. He would bring a different type of culture. But he doesn't have the excessive amount of success that people think he does. And that's fine. I get that. I think he's a strong candidate. He'd be a candidate for a team that didn't just, like, we want to go back to the Super Bowl next year. I don't know if Vrabel's the right guy for that. But at least the accountability and discipline would be on this team. 3 feet of snow. That's nothing. We had 3 inches last night. Other teams have been stealing from our front office for years. They are just chomping at the bit to get the boss of bosses. Yeah. Sirianni wouldn't be hired, but he would be, Howie Roseman, in a heartbeat. Good morning, Eric. How you doing? That's right. Smash that like button, guys, if you're watching right now, wherever, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Would greatly appreciate that. Got all these names that are out there. And all these guys, Brian Johnson's had, 3 interview requests already? So Brian Johnson, when Nick Sirianni probably won't get a head coaching job next year, but Brian Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator of this disaster, is getting interview after interview. That tells you something about Nick Sirianni. It does. Maurice wants Jim Harbaugh, if we can get him. Well, there's a question. I was just going to drop my nugget on who I would ask the Eagles to go out there and get. You brought up Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, I think, would be a really great coach if Howie Roseman wasn't our general manager. Would Howie Roseman agree to relinquish some of his power? I don't know if Jim Harbaugh would want GM rights and picking the players and all, but he's going to want to have a lot more say on his game plan, his assistant coaches, who dresses on game day and who doesn't. Like, if Jim Harbaugh was to come here, Maurice, Howie Roseman would almost, not completely, but almost have to take the back seat like he did in Chip Kelly's 3rd year. Jim Harbaugh would be a disaster, K1, I think. So you got 2 sides of the equation there. And then there's the Bill Belichick conversation. Now you got Howard Eskin, the king. I don't know what he's the king of. He's a laughingstock anymore. Says that Lurie wouldn't want Belichick. And instantly it made me think maybe I do want Bill Belichick when Howard Eskin says something stupid like that. But maybe Bill Belichick is the answer. Maybe Bill Belichick needs to solidify his legacy, which I don't think he does, but maybe he thinks that. And he wants to go to a team that's already got young, talented guys ready to win that need that next push. That's the Eagles. They need that next push. Harbaugh, Belichick would be in that group. Maybe Belichick says, I'm 72, 73, whatever he is. I just want to coach for 3 more years, get 1 more ring without New England, like Tom did. Maybe Bill Belichick is that right guy. I don't need player personnel decisions anymore. Let me just coach a team with a hot young quarterback, great weapons on offense, so I don't have to worry about offense. I could bring in an offensive coordinator. Don't got to worry about it. I could shape and mold this defense, some of the young players, and then all the draft picks we've got. Maybe Belichick would be the answer. And again, I'm not saying he is or not. I haven't even answered the question fully, should Nick Sirianni be fired? Now, I feel more firm today than yesterday that Nick Sirianni won't be fired. But the question is, should he? And there's a big difference there. Again, we won't be able to get a legit head coach as long as Howie has such tight control. Absolutely. And that's the problem with Harbaugh. That's the problem with Vrabel. That's the problem with Belichick. It's the problem with the guys out there. Who would want to come here? But there are a lot of talented young upcomers as well. There's guys that have gotten head coaching opportunity interviews in the past that aren't even in the interview cycle this year. Now, there's a name that jumped out in my mind, and I don't know what made me think about it. Sitting here chit-chatting after Fairway to Heaven last night with my man Jason Sullivan. And if you missed it, check it out. Fairway to Heaven, it's on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Same channel that you're watching this on right now. And we talk about fantasy golf and gambling on golf, this week's American Express Open. We talked about that a little bit last night. But after the show, me and him were just BSing a little bit as we do. And a name popped into my head. And I Google searched it. And the team he works for as a coordinator right now, they just did it. There was one of the sites popped up an article that he hasn't had one interview request. So I didn't fact check this. Maybe he has. But there's a name that was a guaranteed lock to be a head coach again. And all of a sudden, he's being overlooked. And I know his last head coaching tenure ended in lots of controversy. But if I'm going to fire Nick Sirianni, should he be fired? You know who I'm calling? The guy that everybody's ignoring this cycle. But after this cycle, maybe he's the top guy next year. I don't know. I'm going out and calling Brian Flores. He got the raw deal in Miami, without a doubt. And he's available. That would be a guy that everybody's overlooking. Now, I would even consider calling him. I know he's the defensive coordinator with the Vikings. I would almost consider seeing if we can get him to move here as a defensive coordinator with the promotion idea in mind. Maybe he would take a lateral move with a little bit more say, with the promise that he's the next guy if Sirianni fails. I don't know. Brian Flores is a name. Everyone's talking about Ben Johnson. Everybody's talking about Slowick. All these names out there. Brian Johnson was a guy that was one of the hottest names in years past. He's not even remotely in consideration. Whatever head coach we hire needs to come with the play caller of Houston, Green Bay, the Rams, or the Lions. I want creativity, adjustments, and rapid development of our players. Nick got to go. Yeah, and I was on the fence. And look, Eric, a lot of things you're saying about the plays. First and foremost, these teams, I'm calling Houston. I'm looking at Houston's offensive coordinator. I forget his name right now. Did a fantastic job with rookie C.J. Stroud. Green Bay, Matt LaFleur. That offense, it's very basic, but it's so successful on how one play sets up the next play that sets up the next play, sets up the next drive. McVay in the Rams, his coaching tree. I mean, it's obvious how effective what he does is. The Lions, there's a reason why Ben Johnson is going to be a head coach in 2024. He's been interviewed for every single job so far, I think. So we're going to get a new quarterback. You said a hot quarterback. We're not getting a new quarterback. And you know, one of the things highlighted at the bottom of my note page for today is the amount of people I see on Eagles Twitter and on Eagles Facebook groups, which I try to stay off of, Travis. The amount of people saying, well, we've had people in this show saying as well, Marshawn, that Jalen Hurts is a bust. We should never have given him that contract. It's going to be Carson Wentz 2.0 all over again. No, get that out of here. Everybody to Santino Corleone here. That's right. I love I love it. Keeping Nick is like not removing malignant cancer from the body that's malpractice. Nick will have his own 17. Like I was watching a lot of I was watching Baldy, I was watching Orlovsky, and a few other people do all 22 breakdown of the Eagles on certain plays. And obviously they're breaking down the offense. The defense is bad, but there's a talent issue there. There's an injury issue there. There's a scheme. There's a lot of issues on the defense that could be fixed, I think. Offensively, it's malpractice. Like you watch the offensive plays develop. It's like 3-year-olds with crayons drawing up plays. Baldy was showing a video of bubble screen to Dallas Goedert from Monday night. And Dallas Goedert just ran right into Julio Jones. Or Julio Jones ran into Goddard. I don't know. I don't know who was wrong there. And it was a busted play right from the get-go. It's just poor design, poor scheme, poor everything. This offense, if we let Nick Sirianni come back and run it the way he wants to, and he's doing, it's going to be maybe not 0-17 next year, but it wouldn't be good next year. And that's a problem. Like, everyone says, will Howie Roseman be able to get a big name coach to come here to, work under him? Or would Howie have to relinquish some of that power? Well, whoever the offensive coordinator is, will Nick Sirianni be able to get a decent offensive coordinator here to work with him when whoever's going to be the offensive coordinator is going to be listening to Nick Sirianni and what he wants to do? Frank Reich's not going to want to work under Nick Sirianni, knowing that Nick Sirianni's game plan is terrible. It's interesting. I would like to be the bigger man. I apologize for saying Kelsey brother. No, you said Jason Kelsey stinks. You need a deeper apology than that. You said Jason Kelsey stinks. There is a reason why, or we are the only ones that looked at Doug P. and Sirianni. They were on no one's radar. Yeah. Again, Howie Roseman. It's a pretty simple formula to figure out. And I get that. And almost to an extent, that would be a case to keep Nick Sirianni. At least Nick Sirianni is willing to work under Howie Roseman's thumb still. Brian Flores would probably be a good head coach here. He would get our defense sorted. He would. And then he can go out and find an offensive coordinator, a young offensive play caller. Hell, go out and get Arthur Smith or Joe Brady or something like that to be your offensive coordinator. Guys that failed as head coaches but still are decent offensive minds, but have experience. I don't understand how I've not seen Brian Flores' name once on Twitter or on social media for any of the head coaching openings. At least an interview. Hell, at least he could satisfy your Rooney role or something like that. Would he? Yeah. Would he fit in that? Yeah. Like it's pathetic. He's a great mind. And say Eagles don't change coaches this offseason. And all these great coaches, Ben Johnson, the big names, the coordinators, all get hired this offseason. Next offseason, there'll be 4, 5, 6 head coaching openings again. And if the Eagles have to get in there, then all of a sudden you're competing with a smaller pool of coaching candidates or elite coaching candidates. I'm telling you, I like the idea of Brian Flores. I don't know how. Yeah, Flores is definitely blacklisted for sure. And I get that. And that might be part of it. But when did Howie Roseman care? Howie Roseman cares about his image in his Hollywood circles. He would look good for doing it. The Eagles have brought back Michael Vick and brought back players of questionable character to give them their second chance. It wouldn't shock me if Jeffrey Lurie would be the guy that gets Brian Flores off that list. It would fit right in with what Jeffrey Lurie is all about. I disagree, Eric. I do not accept this apology. I need him to grovel. I need him on his hands and knees groveling. Okay? No. Unacceptable. I'm in control. I'm the Don Corleone. I'm the head of this family. I decide. No, Knicks is a Philadelphia Eagle. No. Disagree. Why did the team quit on Sirianni? He must have did something rotten we didn't know about. I do want to know why he quit on this team, or this team quit on him. Like, was it his cliche stuff? Was it that they see through his awful game plan? What was it? Because there's no denying that they quit on him. There's not. And I can't put my finger on what caused it. A name I like that isn't talked about, Todd Monken, offensive coordinator for the Ravens, comes from the good Harbaugh tree, and the offense let Lamar be MVP with no elite talent. I have not heard that name, Brett, and that's a great poll. Lamar Jackson's probably at his best year of his career, regular season wise, with minimal talent, with no, whoever this Todd Monken guy is, didn't have A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith in Baltimore. I don't even know who the wide receivers are in Baltimore. You got Bateman is still one of them. I think Nelson Aguilar. Yeah, I like the idea there. Sirianni needs to add wrinkles and motion to his scheme. Yeah, someone's got to convince him that it's important. Keep Sirianni if you want to start 1-7. And here, this is a great point. This is what I said before. Why fire him in 5 weeks into the season? If you're going to fire him then, just fire him now. No need to see it again and waste another season. Yes, I want groveling, okay? Decisions made in haste are regretted at leisure. Interesting. Deep comment from K1 there. Also, no idea why Bieniemy isn't getting any momentum. He had nothing in Washington and gave us fits, and then made them look passable. Yeah, I'm surprised Bieniemy, but Bieniemy's got the off the field issues as well, like Flores. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs looked worse this year without him, and Washington at times this year looked good. That whole shit was sinking in Washington from the day the season started. You knew this was a wash of a season when Josh Harris bought the team. Just wanted to get through the season and start the rebuild. Maybe they keep him in Washington, but I doubt it. Jason Kelsey's good at set. No, he is the best. Just so you know, when we ran the ball and dominated the time of possession early on, it allowed Desai time to come up with a big play to get a stop. When they panicked and increased 3 and outs, it exposed all flaws. Offense, defense, they play into each other. That's why time of possession for the Eagles was so important. Hope you tell Gronk to shut up too. He talks more and can be very annoying. Gronk, what are we talking about Gronk for here? Killed the D's confidence to make a play. Lori and Howie love their redemption stories, is right, but Flores didn't do anything wrong. Oh, absolutely. But being a whistleblower, I guess, puts you in the wrong to an extent. I don't know. I like the idea of Brian Flores. That's all I'm going to say. I'm very high on the idea of Brian Flores. And I can't believe I didn't think of him sooner. Like, I can't. I do. I do keep my enemies closer. I do. That's why I keep you guys all close. Phil has the final say. He's the main man. Yeah, I'm a main man. I'm a capo. I'm the capo's boss. I'm the boss of this family. You might not like me, but you will respect my decision. Little shout out to Tony Soprano there. The team quit on him because nothing changed in the rooms week in and week out. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they see it. And that's why you saw frustration coming through on the players. They see what's wrong. They knew what's wrong. Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers. All right. I thought Aguilar, maybe he was somewhere else, and Bateman was a young rookie from a few years ago that's amounted to nothing. Well, whoever this guy is, where's the comment again? I already forgot his name. That's how I don't know. Todd Monken, offensive coordinator of the Ravens. You can get stuff out of those two guys. Mark Andrews went down, 4, 5, 6 weeks left in the season for the year, and got Lamar Jackson playing MVP, best record in football. My favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. I think that tells you something. Maybe there's a coaching tree we should be poaching from. Who's the quarterback coach in Baltimore? Does he want to be our offensive coordinator? I don't know. I just think that there's something there with the Baltimore comment, and I want to shout him out again, Brett, for a great comment and great pickup. Let me off the hook for old time's sake, Tess. Bieniemy isn't getting looks because Washington still was a losing record, and most teams like the known entities of the young hot. The young coaches, hey, coaching in the NFL is a young man's game. Coordinator-wise and head coaching-wise. Very rarely will people like Bill Belichick of that age. Now, Bill Belichick's a different story because he's one of the greatest of all time. But very rarely will the old time coaches get head coaching jobs anymore. They're just not. Funny side thing, I was watching. Before I go to bed every night, I always watch reruns of Johnny Carson. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching Johnny Carson last night, and there's this guy comes on the screen. I'm half in, half out of it. And I'm like, he's talking football. I'm like, oh, is that guy like a coach or something like that? Like, he looks familiar. He sounds familiar. And Google searched the guy's name. His name was Bo Phillips. And I'm like, he looks familiar. And I'm going through his wiki page. It's Wade Phillips' dad. I didn't even know Wade Phillips' dad was a head coach in the NFL, actual Ring of Honor guy in Tennessee. Didn't know any of that. It was kind of funny. That made me think about Wade Phillips, which this comment about it's a young man's game made me think. Like, you're never going to see a guy like Wade Phillips. He's a little older now. These older guys get head coaching jobs again. Rex Ryan, guys like that, they're just not going to get head coaching jobs because it's a young man's game. Can't do it. Can't do it, man. You got to grovel. You got to bring me a gift if you want off of it. Whistleblower, aka, is a snitch. Snitches get stitches, and Flores has gotten the stitches of not getting head coaching jobs. I talked about bringing him in when DC when Gannon sneaked out. Yeah, I did as well. But he was with the Vikings by then, I think. Yeah, because we waited so long. If we would have been out of the playoffs sooner, and this is why you don't wait. You miss out on opportunities. I'm not saying you lose in the playoffs so you can get him for this year, but yeah, I like the Brian Flores, and I think we talked about this on this show on my previous network last year about how all the good coordinators were gone after the Super Bowl. It's a shame. With that success came the late to the party kind of added thing there. Someone told Travis to shut up. I hope Stoutland can coach up Jurgens. Looked shaky all year. Yeah. There's got to be concern about Cam Jurgens being the next center. And let me go back. We talked a little bit about it yesterday before the show yesterday. Minutes before the show, Jason Kelsey's retirement was announced by Adam Schefter. But then as the day went on, you heard that he was just telling teammates he was retiring. And then as the day went on and you heard from a few players that he didn't actually tell everybody he was retiring, that it could be the end. So Jason Kelsey's not 100% guaranteed to be done. Maybe he's telling players he's done and leaking this information as a message to the Eagles front office to move on from Nick Sirianni. Maybe saying, I'm retired unless you get your shit together. Because, Jurgens, he had a good start of the season before he got hurt the first time. Then after he came back from his first injury, he wasn't quite as good. But I would have some confidence in Jurgens next year, but you got to have a backup plan just in case. If you want to tank for 2024, keep Sirianni. Travis Hunter is the projected number 1 pick in 2025. I don't even know who that is. That's my lack of college football knowledge. Former Tennessee quarterback T. Martin is quarterback coach for the Ravens. Yeah, we got some deep coaching staff knowledge from Brett on the Baltimore Ravens. I like it. To come back from bye week and going into that gauntlet, Jalen probably snatched the clipboard from Johnson and instead saw me versus Nick written at the top and a bunch of tic-tac-toe games. Look, this fracture, this locker room issue, it's a reason why should Nick Sirianni be fired, it has to be considered to be yes. It does. Jurgens will get it, or we flip the Dickerson. And Duck, I get that. And someone brought up Dickerson yesterday in the comments about him being the center, and I'll say this. I don't like Landon Dickerson as the center. You don't fix one hole by creating another. And Landon Dickerson is arguably one of the 3 best guards in football, one of the 3 best left guards at least in football, and he's only been playing the position for a few years. Why create a big hole at the guard position on Jalen Hurts' blind side by moving him to center? You work with Cam Jurgens, you give Cam Jurgens that shot, and then if that doesn't work out, then in the next draft you look for a center. But for 2024, if Jason Kelsey retires, and I still don't think it's 100% locked in stone, if he does retire, Jurgens gets that job, you just better have a backup plan in place and a real backup center than what we've been doing with Brett Toth and stuff like that. That can't be your backup center. That's when the team quit. That's right. That's right. Jurgens will be fine. He just wasn't 100%. He was banged up massively this year, for sure. And if he's healthy, I think when he was healthy at the beginning, there was a point early in the season, 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season before he got hurt the first time. We were sitting here talking that we needed to draft another future replacement for Kelsey because they found the right guard of the future. He went from Isaac Seumalo to Cam Jurgens. And he, just like Landon Dickerson figured out left guard instantly, Cam Jurgens was figuring out right guard instantly. Then he get banged up. Then he couldn't get back into a groove. He was probably playing hurt all year. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of doubt. You just better have a backup plan in place. Maybe the backup plan on Jurgens is, hey, Kelsey, maybe you come out of retirement 6 weeks into the season when Jurgens isn't working out. The team quit on him because nothing changed in the rooms week in and week out during the slide. It told the team that Sirianni had nothing in the tank. Nothing up in the brain. Maybe it proved to the team that Nick Sirianni wasn't qualified for the position. If Nick Sirianni's not qualified for the position, then the answer of should Nick Sirianni continue to coach is no. I really think the league, when I say would he get hired this week to coach next year somewhere, it's a clear-cut no. Because I think the league sees how blatantly bad this Eagles team was this year in the second half of the season. Like, the league is laughing. I bet you if the league got together and had a little party and just excluded everyone from the Eagles organization, they would all be laughing at Nick Sirianni and the Eagles and how they played out the end of this season. I really think they'd be laughing at this team. I don't see how you can keep Sirianni at this point. If you bring in a new offensive coordinator, it wouldn't do any good if he forced to run Nick's system. That's what I said at the top of the show, Bobby. Just like everyone says no one wants to work under Howie Roseman as a head coach, no offensive coordinator would want to work under Nick Sirianni for the same reason. We've been told 1,000 times this year that it was Nick Sirianni's system. Nick Sirianni designs the plays. Brian Johnson just calls them. Nobody's going to want to work under Nick. Nobody. Will Howie invest even a little in safeties and linebackers this year? We're going to get into it. So this whole topic, and when I created, it wasn't the original plan. When I said should Nick Sirianni continue to coach, the original title of the show I came up with yesterday afternoon. It wasn't the plan, but then I'm like, all right, we should start a should they stay or should they go series. And after, I think we might get some information on somebody being fired today or tomorrow. We'll have that to talk about. And we'll be previewing the divisional round games on Friday. So this week's topics or whatever. But he better invest a little bit in safety and linebacker. Will he? I don't know. How he's learned from his mistakes in the past. Maybe this is the time he does. But it's blatantly obvious that he needs to make an adjustment in his valuing of those two positions. Obviously. Jurgens was drafted as Kelsey's replacement. So was Landon Dickerson, though, as well. He was only playing guard out of necessity. He was playing guard out of the fact that he won the job. It wasn't necessary. Tyler Steen could have played it. Sua Apeda could have played it. But he beat both them out in camp. Landon Dickerson, the same thing happened. He earned the job and then proved to be great at the position. Whole draft needs just draft 8 linebackers and 5 safeties, then get a good number 1 running back. Yeah, I can see them drafting a running back. They only have, I think, Kenny Gainwell under contract for next season. He'll sign a couple knockoffs like Rashad Penny and then draft a guy, and that's your running back room again. Taking your argument to the ultimate step, what head coach would want to coach under Jeffrey Lurie? Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's fair, K1. I really do. When if you run the ball too much, you're going to get called into the principal's office, a.k.a. Doug Peterson. The only thing that Lurie has with him is the fact that Lurie is the one that pays and is willing to pay for whatever he wants. So if Lurie wants you to be your head coach, he has no problem paying that, whatever your number is. If Jim Harbaugh comes here and says, I would coach you, but I don't trust you. I want $5 extra million because I just don't trust you. Lurie would be like, sure, I want you. Here, whatever you want, blank check. That's the only thing with him. Plus, he does run a great organization. Outside of this coaching situation, I mean, the Eagles organization is a very, very well run. They got great facilities. They're great in the community. Jeffrey Lurie is a pretty strong owner. Now the reports are that he's going to meddle in football more, but that's something else to deal with. We just need a center that won't give bad snaps every other series. We have to make Kelsey is slipping. He didn't have these issues before. Kelsey, it's weird, Mister. Kelsey set the bar so high. Kelsey was still one of the 2 or 3 best centers in football this year, but he had a drop off from last year, which is just crazy how good he's been in the past. There's a reason why Kelsey was an All Pro this year. He's still one of the best, but he did come down. More false starts, more batch snaps. He's getting long. He's been beat up, banged up, and bruised for a long time. So, yeah, I would still take Kelsey back in a heartbeat next year. Kelsey, at what he is this year, is still one of the best. So I would still take him back. Plus his leadership. How hard is it to find scouts and good coaches and actually trust them to do their job? I don't get how Howie can't get out of the way. It's the Howie's the smartest guy in the room syndrome. I mean, what was that scout's name? You know, the Milton Williams draft pick that Howie was like, yeah. He went over to fist pound the guy, and the guy's like, stop, get away from me. Needless to say, he wasn't working for the Eagles very long after that. He moved on. You know, Howie's got his way. Jeffrey Lurie enables Howie to do it his way. Is it a problem? Yes. Should it be a problem? I don't know. Or should it continue? I don't know. I don't know the answer. When is Howie going to give us an interview? He has some explaining to do. I would love. Y'all, get on social media, tag Howie Roseman, or find an email address, get Howie Roseman on Trending in the AM. That will get TMC out of the timeout zone. Getting Howie Roseman to do an interview. Give me 20 minutes with you, Howie. I will ask the hard-hitting questions. I'll be polite about it, but I'll answer the questions that the fans want to know. Y'all get me Howie Roseman on this show. We'll do an interview. Anytime. I'm calling you out, Howie. Sit opposite me on this screen. No, I'll bring my laptop. We'll do the interview right at the NovaCare complex. I'll come to you, Howie. We'll do it right there at NovaCare. I need Howie. Push for Howie, guys. I'm paying a running back this season and drafting one. No, not paying much. Do you think BG gets his farewell tour? I hope so. Again, if Fletcher Cox leaves. I know James Bradbury's trash, but if he leaves, Kelsey stays retired, you're losing a lot of your veteran, long-tenured players. Somebody's got to stay. You need at least one of those voices, still here. You could probably get him cheap enough. He wants to retire here. You could probably get him on a similar contract as last year, if not even a little bit less. I hope he stays. And honestly, if he wants to be here, Jeffrey Lurie will find a one-year deal that works for both sides. I would be shocked if he wasn't. It would be me doing my 401k's job and expecting to become a millionaire. Yeah, 401k's don't make you a millionaire. I think Howie needs to spend some time back in the equipment office. I mean, yeah, timeout zone. Yeah, it's like putting a kid in timeout. 2024 season better. I hope it's better, little G. I hope so. All the over-the-top hyped guys from the last couple days before the game, they're all gone. They're all quiet. You're all frustrated. I get it. With Howie and drafts, wouldn't it have been nice to have Brian Branch instead of Nolan Smith? Yes. I mean, we've talked about this countless times on this show, Brett. But Howie doesn't value the safety position with a first-round value. He doesn't value late linebackers at all. So, I think Howie's plan also was to keep Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That didn't work out. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that went into it. But, yeah, Brian Branch, Joey Porter Jr., there was a lot of picks. But Nolan Smith was a safe pick for the future. There were people before the draft last year that were calling Nolan Smith a top 10 grade. There were people that were mocking Nolan Smith to the Eagles at 8 or whatever the first pick we had was. Nolan Smith was a well-regarded talent that slipped because of his size. not saying Nolan Smith is going to be a bust. He's the future of this team. He's the future replacement of Hassan Reddick whenever Hassan Reddick moves on. Maybe Josh Sweat, too. I apologize for saying Kelsey brothers are annoying, not funny, not cute. They stink. Yeah. Get me Howie Roseman, and you can come back on the show. If in was Lori, I'd lock Howie out of the war room and give the doorman a DK poster to open for Howie when he asks why. Oh man, TMC sleeps with the fishes. He does. Nolan Smith is a bust. He is not a bust yet. Far too soon. Yeah, TMC. Man, TMC is really upset a lot of people here. Guys, make sure you hit that like button, that share button, that subscribe button. Keep the comments coming. Whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're at right now, make sure you like, share, retweet. But make sure you drop the comments. If you're watching on Twitter, about 8 or 9 people watching on Twitter right now. You can comment on the show. Click the video. It opens up a chat box. It pops right up on my screen. And I can answer any of your questions, any of your thoughts, any of your opinions on this. And the question of the day, should Nick Sirianni should be fired, not will he be fired? And also, like I said, I'm bringing up the fact that the name that I would target right now would be Brian Flores. Not a popular opinion, but it's an opinion. Something else that I put out on Twitter yesterday that says how the Philadelphia fan base feels about Nick Sirianni right now is I did a power ranking of all the coaches in Philadelphia right now, the top 5, the 5 power 5s, the big 5, the 5 for 5ers. Nick Nurse, John Tortorella, Rob Thompson, Philly season's right around the corner, Jim Curtin, Union coach. And I put Sirianni at 5. I put Tortorella 1 because the Flyers are the hot name right now. Working on getting a Flyers beat reporter on next week. Just got to iron out the date and the time of the show. Got lots of guests lined up. I got 2 or 3 guests lined up for next week. 2 confirmed. Just working on the dates. And 1 other one I'm still working on. I put Tortorella 1. I put, Nurse 2, Rob Thompson 3, Curtin 4, and Nick Sirianni 5. Now, I got dozens of responses to this power ranking. And people criticized Torts 1, Curtin 4. All 1 through 4 got debated massively on this thread. But one thing was certain, that everybody agreed that Nick Sirianni would be 5 in their power rankings of head coaches in Philadelphia. Hell, people were saying the Water Dogs head coach. People were saying the Stars, even though they don't exist. When the Soul come back in the Arena Bowl. All ahead of Nick Sirianni at this point. And that's a problem. This guy just took us to the Super Bowl last year, and his career's already on death's doorstep in this town. Hearing chatter, do you have friends? Do you have sources? Can we ban bubble screens next year? I hope so. If we are going to do them, maybe the next offensive coordinator could just figure out how they work. I've seen bubble screens work, just never for the Eagles. Somebody put out like a troll post on social media yesterday that the Eagles ran 636 or whatever the joke was, bubble screens this year for a combined negative 36 yards or something like that. And it's so sarcastic and so funny, but yet it's kind of believable because they ran it so much unsuccessfully. I like Nolan Smith over Dean right now. Yeah, Nakobe Dean, they better have a backup plan than Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean's going to come into the offseason as the leading candidate to start at linebacker next year. And rightfully so, because there's nobody else here. But Howie better have a backup plan. Howie better invest more than just going with Nakobe Dean again. Torch is number 1, yet we're going to get Flyers talk. Bill Matz, reporter, Flyers. He already agreed to come on next week. I just said I had to look at the schedule. I wanted to have him come on the day after a game. So I got to look at the Flyers schedule. And then he's going to be on next week at one point to give us some first-hand Flyers talk about this team that's taking over the hearts of Philadelphia right now. They are. What if the Eagles would have kept Aqua Bowman and Well, they did keep Aqua Bowman, just so you know. And nobody picked up Nick Nurse or Dan Arnold in the NFL. Nick Nurse actually installed an offense with movement, and Joel is a career high in assists. Plus, he worked out the team hard when they pissed off. We love Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is beloved in this city. Changed the culture and not just did he install something different on offense and defense, a culture and an attitude that we haven't seen with Sixers basketball probably since Larry Brown was the head coach of this team. Actually, I like that. That just popped into my head. Nick Nurse is the best coach we've had in Philly with the Sixers since Larry Brown. No doubt about it. We'll see if it pays off in the end. I don't know. The Sixers with a huge win last night over the defending champion Denver Nuggets. I got the box score up here in case anybody wants to talk. Sixers 126-121. Joel Embiid outdueled Nikola Jokic. Joel Embiid 41 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, a block shot, only 3 turnovers. Jokic at 25 and 19 with 3 assists. That's a pretty solid effort right there. Another big game from Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey. D Melt was hurt. Played a really tight rotation last night. Really, it was only a 7-man rotation. No D'Anthony Melton. So, they ran a really tight rotation. Still Robert Covington out. It was basically there's 5 starters with Beverly and Morris, and Paul Reed in the backup center minutes, and Korkmaz got 4 minutes of action. But Nick Nurse, the Eagles need to take a page out of the Nick Nurse system. I mean, you had to move on from Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, it was in a similar situation without the championship run as Nick Sirianni. Lost locker room. Players didn't want to play for him. But he is a coach that's had success. He didn't want to move in. Doc Rivers didn't get no head coaching job when he was fired from here. I don't think Doc Rivers wanted one. But moving on to you had a great player coaching pool in the NBA. And the Sixers made a move because of that to bring in a different head coach that had a possibility for huge success. The Eagles have that opportunity this offseason to get a really high-quality candidate. There's no guarantees that next year there'll be this many great candidates to coach your team. Go out, get a guy, and see how changing the culture and changing the attitude in the locker room translates into changing the offensive success, defensive success. Nick Nurse is a perfect example of a reason why you should fire Nick Sirianni. NFL coach is a tough job. They were replaced every 3 years or so, unless you're Bill Belichick or Andy Reid or Mike Tomlin or Pete Carroll. Yeah. This whole you can't fire a coach after 3 years is bogus. You can move on from coaches whenever you want. It doesn't mean anything. You don't keep a coach just because you're scared of moving on. If the 76ers pissed off Doc, he'd be playing golf. He is playing a lot of golf, probably. When people say Joker is better than Embiid, it's like a guy trying to tell you that Reggie Miller was better than Jordan. No. Nikola Jokic is a great NBA basketball player. And he's a pretty awesome dude from what I could tell. There's this video from the summer or from the off season of him back in his home country. And I think it was Aaron Gordon was with him in the video. He would just ride his little Huffy bike, put it behind like a staircase and went into like some horse racing thing or something like that. And he didn't have anything flashy. If he wasn't 7 feet, 80,000 feet tall, you wouldn't even know who he was. But he's just there, having a good time, chilling. Nothing flashy. Just betting on some horses, having a good day. I like Joker. I think he's a really good basketball player. I've gone from hating him to respecting what he's capable of doing. And Embiid is following up his MVP season with a better season this year. It's like basically saying Joel Embiid is the opposite of Jalen Hurts at this moment. Jalen Hurts had a borderline MVP season last year. Probably should have gotten it last year. Played great in the playoffs. Played great in the Super Bowl. And instead of getting better this year, he regressed. Joel Embiid had an MVP season last year. And he's getting better this year. That's taking your game to the next level. That's the next level of Jalen Hurts' maturity to an extent. My coffee is going way too quick today. I still got 35 minutes to go. And the coffee's almost gone. That's not good. All the 76ers players after the start of the season said, we actually learned stuff during practice. get a new coach the players respect, and we have similar improvements for the Eagles. All the 76ers players at the start of the season said we learned stuff. Yeah, because they didn't practice under Doc Rivers. We know that. Players respect Nick Nurse, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from the Sixers right now for the Eagles. Still always makes me shake my head that Josh Harris hired Doc Rivers before Daryl Morey. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Daryl Morey guy. Never have been, Brett. You're newer to the show. My opinions have never wavered that I don't think Daryl Morey, I think he's one of the most overrated executives in the NBA. Hasn't won a thing. Made far more mistakes than he's made, successful decisions. He gets put up on this pedestal. Yeah, he got a great return for James Harden, but he put himself in that position by trading for James Harden to begin with. Every one of his goods is just fixing a bad. So Daryl Morey can go, in my opinion, too. I don't trust him. Embiid is a complete and elite two-way player. Joker is a great playmaker. He does not play hard on defense every play. I get that. I get it. But he's still an elite offensive playmaker. He shoots, he passes, he rebounds. I get it. He also stays a lot healthier than Joel. So for a negative that you're given there, Joel's already missed, 9-10 games this year? Joel Embiid's can only miss like 6 more games, and he won't even be eligible for the MVP. Joel Embiid's still number one concern is health. Number one concern, health. Staying healthy and being healthy in the playoffs. I love it. Yeah, coffee gone before. Well, we don't do the reset anymore because you guys abused your reset privileges. I look, yesterday, get up early for a show after an late night Eagles game on Monday, show yesterday morning, long day at work yesterday, nighttime show last night, to bed late last night, up early for the show. The coffee is in need this morning, we'll just say. Marcus Morris is a secret weapon against Jokic. In the back of Jokic's mind, he's always thinking Marcus will get revenge for his Markeith, the distraction through Jacob's scheme. I didn't know where you're going with that at first. I thought you were actually going to make a positive comment about Marcus Morris in general, who I think is one of the secret weapons on this team in general. I think we're getting to a little Sixers tangent here, which is fine. No problem talking Sixers. The Sixers' biggest need, in my opinion, is if Joel Embiid is going to sit games at any stretch this year, more than 1 or 2 or 3 games of rest. The Sixers have to extremely, extremely, extremely prioritize getting a real backup center for the games Joel Embiid sits. I like Paul Reed. I think the fan base overrated Paul Reed his whole time here. It's the syndrome. It's just like everybody was crying that we got rid of Isaiah Joe or Charles Bassey in years past. Now Isaiah Joe's developing into a good bench shooter. Yeah, I get it. But we didn't have time to develop him. But Paul Reed is very, very good as the number 2 center for 9 to 10 minutes when Joel Embiid is in the game and just needs a break. Paul Reed cannot start at center and play 25, 30 minutes the games Joel Embiid misses. Mo Bamba, obviously, don't know what's going on there. You got Marcus Morris playing 10, 15 minutes a game of backup center when Joel Embiid sits. That's not good enough. Marcus Morris is a solid bench player on this team. And I love that he's getting his chance to play in Philly. But he shouldn't be your back. He should be playing 15 minutes of center when Joel Embiid's not playing. You need a legit guy that can start in Joel Embiid's place when Joel Embiid is missing. And you better get that guy now, just in case Joel Embiid goes down for a lengthy period of time. Because if Joel Embiid goes down for a lengthy period of time, then the price of that guy just goes up. Embiid has had 4 MVP caliber seasons in a row, and each season he got better. Yeah. Jalen Hurts has not. Jalen Hurts went up and came back down a little bit. Joel Embiid just keeps climbing up, climbing up, climbing up. You got to give him credit. Finding a way to top last year's season for him. You want to see how Morey looks during the trade deadline? YouTube Bad Santa scene with Bernie Mac and the midget negotiating. I don't need to Google it. I know what you're talking about. Why are we being punished? We are not the ones who were premature. Stop. What is up, Mitchie Poo? Tobias played great with Embiid on the floor. It's about damn time. Look, no slander to Tobias. Tobias is doing his role. When Joel is out there, and Tyrese Maxey, he takes the back seat. The games Joel misses, he'll put up 30 if you need him to. I have no problem with Tobias Harris on the Sixers team. I have said that countless times, over and over again. No problem with Tobias Harris staying on this team. I have no problem. I know this is going to shock people. At the end of this year, he's a free agent. If the Sixers want to find a way to keep Tobias Harris, by all means, do it. I am a Tobias Harris fan. Do I think we can improve upon Tobias Harris? Sure. But I'm not just getting rid of Tobias Harris for sake of the fact that his contract, like people always say. Let's be honest, Tobias Harris' contract's not even as bad as it used to be. I think he's only like 19th or 20th highest paid guy now in the NBA. I have no problem with Tobias Harris. None at all. And I think you're seeing his numbers don't say it, but I think you're seeing a pretty solid season from him so far this year. About to head into a patient. One last thing. Batum is everything we hope. I love that comment. And head into a patient. I don't know what that means. Are you a doctor? Are you Dr. Brett? Are you taking care of a patient? I love your comment on Nicholas Batum. Everything the Sixers needed out of PJ Tucker. Can score when needed. Plays great defense. Remember we always used to hear about the phrase, just wait till the playoffs. Playoff PJ. The playoff PJ was crap last year. PJ Tucker is so bad that he's a DMP almost every night for the Clippers anymore. Well, at least he was for a stretch. I don't know if it's still going on. That tells you, Nicholas Batum is everything we wanted. And on top of that, he's a really, really strong locker room presence. He's a leader off the floor. I'm a huge fan. Like that trade, getting Batum, getting Morris, getting Covington. I know Martin's not doing much, but there's no room for him on this team right now. The players we got fit the roles on this team with Embiid and Maxey so well. It's why I don't think the Sixers need to go out and get a third star. I think you have 2 stars and you've got great role players. You need to add to those role players a legit backup center that can play starter minutes when Joel Embiid is out. I think you need another ball handler. I don't know about how viable Pat Beverly's 27 minutes a game as your only other guard is long term. I think you need another ball handler for the bench, and you need a legit backup center. Now, if you want to go out and get another scorer or two, sure, I won't get upset about that. We got a smart person in the house. Doctor of PT, home therapist at the moment. Enjoy the chat. Hey, we're here every morning, 8 a.m. For sure. Join the conversation anytime you like. Would love to learn more about what kind of therapist you are. Talk all things, anything here. But appreciate you. Make sure you tune in every morning. Like, share, subscribe for me. I appreciate that. So get that off there. Look how they massacred my reset. Hey, it is what it is. Highest player in NBA history who never made an All-Star game. Oh, is that Tobias Harris? I don't care. I don't care that he's never made an All-Star game. I still have no problem with the contract, Mitch. But you cannot slander Tobias. It's like when we slander Kenny Gainwell and K1 gets upset. Tobias Harris is my boy. He's a great dude. Solid player. Put in an awful position by the Sixers. The reason why people hate Tobias Harris is because of the contract he took, and we didn't keep Jimmy Butler. And I've said this before, and I hate having to go back into it all the time. Jimmy Butler was never staying. They traded way too much to bring in Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. They couldn't let both leave. They had to keep one. And if they did not offer Tobias Harris a max contract, someone else would have given him the max contract. And you couldn't let all those assets go and lose both players. They chose wrong. They should have gotten rid of Brett Brown. Obviously. They didn't. They kept Brett Brown, so they lost Jimmy Butler. So you had to keep Tobias Harris. And I think Tobias Harris has got shit on in this city far too much because he was offered more money than he was worth, and he accepted it. What athlete, what person, period? Mitchie Poo. You got Hardcore Sports Network, your thing, and you're on EOP. If someone came out, just for hypothetical sake, say you make $100 a month, and that's what you're worth as a content creator. Just say, I'm just making this up. But some other network comes out and says, we are going to build our network around you, Mitchie Poo, and we're going to pay you $1,000 a month. You know in your mind you're not worth $1,000 a month. You can't change your life to commit to that. But you're going to accept the money because why wouldn't you accept the money? Money talks. The guy's contract's expiring and people are still crying. Why? I know. Because they still don't like him. There's this ingrained thing in their head that they're not allowed to like Tobias Harris. We got a lot of people jumping in late in the show right now. We're talking Eagles and we're talking Sixers. Should Nick Sirianni be fired? And whatever you want to talk about the Sixers. We got it all. We're talking everything. We got Flyers coming up in the coming days and weeks on this show. We got Philly stuff. I'm trying to find a Phillies person or two to come on. We got some people lined up. I got a great guest. I can't wait to have my buddy on to talk Sixers next week. Like I said, we got Bill Matz coming on next week, Flyers reporter for the All-City Philly sports team. Got another special guest working out the date and time. Special guest I'm really excited to have on this show. And I'm gonna pose this. We got 25 minutes. Make sure you hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, guys. If you want to see me have a guest on this show, if there's somebody you want to hear me interview, send them a message. Tell them to message me. I want to bring on guests that you guys want to hear from. Obviously, everyone wants the big names. It's hard. I would love to get somebody like Louis Riddick on this show. All the stuff he said about the Eagles yesterday. Obviously, he's not going to come on the show. I can't even message him. But anybody you want to see me interview on this show, past player, former player, coaches, reporters, let me know. But also, if you know somebody, have them hit me up. I would love to bring some big name people on here to get some different perspective and give you guys what you want. Playoff PJ equals the mean faces, three rebounds, and occasional 3-point attempt. But it goes to this thing that, yes, Nicholas Batum is giving us what we thought PG Tucker was going to give us. I knew as soon as, Eric, you've been following me for a long time. I knew as soon as we gave PJ Tucker that 3-year, whatever deal it was, 30-something million, I knew it was wrong right from the get-go. Dude, I said, if you were watching earlier, I've already called out Howie. Like, anybody that's got a connection to Howie Roseman, you send them that information. Get Howie on this show. I would be the most, George, I would not say anything offensive whatsoever. I wouldn't ask him a-hole questions. I would plan that interview out to a T. And I would love to. And I even said, I will go to the NovaCare complex and do it in his office. He doesn't even have to worry about a thing. I need Howie Roseman on this show. That's my white whale now. Everybody's got the white whale. I had a white whale, but now I think Howie Roseman is my new white whale. And I will ask him all the hard questions that you guys want. I will. I think it would be worth it. And I love interviewing people. You are worth whatever someone is willing to pay you for your services. Exactly. Am I worth $500 super chat? Anybody? Anybody? Going once, going twice? Maybe. You're worth what people are willing to pay you. For sure. Let me tell you something. Should Nick Sirianni be fired? Maybe not. But let me tell you something. If he was fired, I don't think his worth would be anything to a team right now. No one's paying him to be a head coach. Probably not an offensive coordinator. And that tells you everything. The fact that I put him at 5 in my power rankings of coaches in Philadelphia. And everybody argued about 1 through 4 in that thread. No one argued that Sirianni shouldn't be 5. If anything, they said he should be off the list. I had to be at work since 7 a.m. and I had to get up early to put salt on the steps. Man, I haven't even stepped outside my house yet today. I know it was 9 degrees this morning on my phone when I woke up. Everything that was taken care of, it's probably just 10 times icier than it was yesterday. It's brutal out right now. Brutal out right now. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I got my thermal shirt on here to put under my hoodie when I leave for work. Got double socks on today. It is going to be a cold ass day. So I was coming in late to the conversation, like I said. We're talking about this Sirianni stuff. I do have one other thing that I wanted to bring up I was asked yesterday on Twitter, and this might be a conversation for the rest of this show, but also for tomorrow as well. What would you prefer? What would you prefer if you can go back? Say I was a time traveler and I came back to you back in September, back in August, and said, "You've got two options, guys. You can choose one or two paths. The blue pill gives you A, the red pill gives you B. A is the exact season the way it played out for the Eagles. 10-1 start, complete collapse in the playoffs. Or the red pill, option B, would be a 7-10 season. Just an average season. No super highs, no super lows. You just lose 10 games. You miss the playoffs. Would you take what we had and the other highs and lows, or just a consistently average or below average season at 7-10? Which way would you go? But I think that's tough because you want to make the playoffs always. You would never say, I don't want to make the playoffs. But also, 7-10 would have created the change that both things need change. 7-10 would have pushed the change more. I think it was an interesting question I was asked, and I don't know what the answer is. That's why I can't even use that as the end of the show. Like I've almost need the rest of the day today to continue to think about this. My sidewalk is the only one that is dry. Everyone else is slick. Well, can you come take care of my sidewalks and walkways then? Never should have been top 5. Knock. Nick should never have been top 5. B. So George would take the 7-10 season. And I tend to agree. What my right side of my brain says agree with you on that. I hate to say it. A, the changes necessary would happen. We would be able to more objectively look at the season as a whole. The way the season went, you had the high of 10-1, and then you had the low of 1-6 and the early exit from the playoffs. The highs and the lows blind you on how to evaluate this past season. Because you saw greatness and you saw utter failure. And it really makes it hard to evaluate. At least 7-10. You know. I don't want to say it was a failure at 7-10, but you know, and it's easier to make those changes. A is the definition of masochism. Is it? I don't know. The team is too talented to go 7-10. I would only accept it if we had injuries. So you would accept the season we had versus this team going 7-10. Interesting. And why is that? Because this season was a complete failure. This season was a complete disaster. The season was a complete, high of high to the lowest of lows. The lows were way worse than the goods of the highs. Because even when the high of 10-1 was happening, people were questioning it. People were questioning the play calling, questioning how they won games. So even the high highs weren't the greatest of highs. I don't know. I don't know how I answer this. I tend to lean George's way with B, but I haven't made my final call on this one yet. EOP, Big Al, saying he would take the season the way it played out over 7-10. But I think it leaves it up for more debate if you take the season, whether you make changes. It gives the front office the excuses they need to leave some of it the same. So I almost feel the answer to this question also answers your question, whether should Nick Sirianni be fired? If you accept the way it went, you're accepting the fact that Nick Sirianni will remain. And that, yeah, he might coach us great next year. But he also, no matter how, if Nick Sirianni stays the head coach of this team, and say we come out next year a ball of fire and are 5-0 or 6-1, there'll be no confidence in the fan base that it would be sustainable. Because now we have this epic failure hanging over us that we'll never be able to accept that the season's going to sustain. The season we had shows us where our real deficits are. Now we have to actually do something to fix it. And to follow that up, 7-10 is meh, but gives too many options because that means that in every part of our game. See, I think it's the opposite. I think that the season we had gives people an excuse. I hope your guests are not too cream puffy for you. Well, I think having Howie Roseman on this show wouldn't be too. If anybody knows him, I'm ready for that interview. To be honest, the season could easily have gone 7-10. We were lucky to win some games. I think that is what we are, a mediocre team, a team with good talent that is badly managed. And the thing is, it's funny. So a team with good talent. It's also the fact that the talent is so heavy and like we've got an elite offensive line and defensive line, two elite wide receivers. But we got it's not like we have good wide receivers and good cornerbacks. We got great wide receivers and awful cornerbacks. It's like it's so top heavy in certain positions of the team and super bottom heavy in other positions. Dimitri, how you doing? I think the end of the season makes it a less of a debate. Eagles totally collapse. Absolutely. And I don't even know what cream puffy yes are. I don't understand that. I want to know what you mean by cream puffy guess. Got some good ones lined up. Trying to get some good things. I want to, as the season ends, I'm not going to do mock drafts every day on this show. That's not me. I can't talk Flyers every day. I'm going to talk Flyers, but I can't talk them every day. So I got to bring in some guests, some Philly guests. I got to. I wish I had the connections to get big timers, but I don't. I think the Super Bowl hangover effect would be the blame versus seeing what the actual play problem is. Lost this team. Actually, I think that's good. 7-10 would have equaled just the Super Bowl hangover versus what we went through exposes what the problems are. I said when I brought this question up that I hadn't made a decision. George made an excellent point for one side. Big Al's making an excellent point for the other side now. Now I'm back to torn down the middle what the correct answer to this question is. I would take the 10-7 season because we know it clearly it's the abysmal coaching. If it were injuries, then we wouldn't know the coaching was so poor. There were a lot of injuries on this team this year, mister. Let's be honest. Jurgens multiple times. Your starting middle linebacker multiple times. Safeties have gone down multiple times. Avonte Maddox, Dallas Goedert. There have been a lot more injuries on this team than people realize. Just saying. I just hate feeling like I can't trust this team. If they go 10-1 next year, see, that's what exactly I just said. How do you repair a fractured mentality? You do. You answer the question, should Nick Sirianni be fired, with a yes. Because the only way to fix no coach is going to come in here, or Nick Sirianni's not going to come in here next year and be able to quickly fix the fractured mentality. The same players that are fractured this year are going to be fractured next year if he's still their boss. It's going to be very hard. If I was Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni is going to have a very hard job proving to me tonight or tomorrow, whenever they meet, that he can fix the fracture of this team. A very hard time proving it. Problem is, if Hurts is one of those deficits, you cannot fix that. We're not gonna get into the Jalen Hurts part of it. Maybe tomorrow we'll get into the Jalen Hurts because there are a lot of people questioning Jalen Hurts. There's not enough time. We only got 10 minutes left in the show today. We will talk Jalen Hurts. Matty B should be your Flyers. I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. Well, think about it. I'll think about it. Edge of Philly's in denial, and I don't mean the river in Egypt. Excuses. It's okay to say. There's no problem saying that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are a problem. Unless you're talking about Big Al being the problem at EOP. That's the only thing I'm talking. I don't know. But there's no problem with that. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That Howie Roseman, while not going anywhere, is very culpable for this collapse. Very, very culpable for this collapse. And while he made a million mistakes, he's also still a great general manager. And would Nick Sirianni be hired next year immediately to head coach somewhere? The answer is probably no. If we fired Howie Roseman, he would be hired like this. For all his mistakes, he fixes his mistakes better than anybody. So he's very culpable. There's no denial. There's no excuses. Yeah. The Jalen Hurts conversation, it's a long, drawn-out conversation. It's not one for 10 minutes. Spent $400,000 on the quality of food and ingredients, then you get a kid from a cooking class to prepare the meal. Eagles brain trust. Maybe. I was gonna say you get somebody from McDonald's to cook the food. Maybe that would be the better analogy. I don't know. Jeffrey Lurie is never completely out. But you want to go one on one with me, Manny? B? I can handle you. I've dealt with much worse than you. Much, much worse. I've kicked guests off in the middle of a show. I can handle anybody. Don't you worry about me. You would be the cream puffy guest if I had you on there. That's all I can say about that. Um, now I lost my train of thought. I have no idea where I'm going now. No idea where I'm going now in this show. We got 10 minutes left. Make sure you hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button. Don't worry about this cute show. Don't worry about it. Phil is for tough. I'm a tough guy. Tough. I'm also a guy that just don't care. Is the kid from the cooking class? Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. George wants me to go for another hour today so we could talk Jalen Hurts today and not save the Jalen Hurts conversation for tomorrow. Unfortunately, we're going to save the Jalen Hurts conversation for tomorrow. So you better, if you want me to talk Jalen Hurts tomorrow, you better like this video. You better share it out. You better do all that good stuff. I think this has been a very productive show. You are trying to derail me. And so is Maddie B. So are a few people. You're trying to derail me. And you've worked. I've had no coffee for 10 minutes. None. George wants to get out, wants to get put in the corner now. George will never. I might have put TMC in a timeout today, which I didn't actually. I think he took my timeout personally because he hasn't commented on the show since I said that. I didn't legitly put TMC in a timeout, which I can do, but George would never be in a timeout. George is an OG from the very, very, very beginning of my content creation career. George is the OG. I consider George a friend. Even though we've never met in person, I consider George a friend. So he can derail me all he wants. It's like, when brothers try to rile up their brothers, Yeah, George has got a pass to say whatever he wants and get away with it. Honestly. Just some of the things he says might derail my conversation. Notice I tried to swing the conversation to the Sixers, and somehow the conversation came right back to the Eagles. So anybody calling for more Flyers talk, just know when I bring up the Flyers, it'll just come full circle. Full circle right back to the Eagles, even during the Flyers conversation. Now, I would still RKO. I would RKO anybody at this point. I just want to RKO somebody. I've always wanted to RKO somebody in a pool. You see all those videos of people doing wrestling moves in pools? I just want to run up to somebody standing next to a pool and grab them and RKO them into the pool. Always wanted to do that. Never did it. But I would do that in a heartbeat. Guys, should Nick Sirianni be fired? I don't think we answered the question, but I think we had a very strong conversation and made some valid points on both sides of the equation. That is broken. And I want to close the show bringing up my main point. And Zach, early in the show, said the same thing as I did. That the coaching talent pool this offseason is legit. There are great coaching candidates available right now that won't be available next year if this does not work out. If you're going to give him only 5 games to prove himself and make a decision 5 weeks into the season next year, hypothetically saying, you definitely get rid of him now. I will bring up to the late comers, Brian Flores should be the head coach of the Eagles next year if you want to move on from Nick Sirianni. I know it would never happen. I get the whole blacklist thing. Brian Flores Brian Flores is the new Eric Bieniemy. Going to be blacklisted from head coaching. Jeffrey Lurie should make that bold choice. Go for somebody like Brian Flores. Don't miss out, because if he does, if when all the jobs get filled this year, next year Brian Flores is going to be the top guy again. You missed out on him as your defensive coordinator, and if he was our defensive coordinator this year, things might have turned out differently this season. And if they didn't, maybe they would have moved on from Nick Sirianni and promoted him mid-season. I got to do an RKO into a pepperoni stromboli. Eric, I have tenure. You are a tenured professor of anything. The beard, no knowledge, as I was somebody, trolls always make stupid jokes. I was called the Beard A No Knowledge for I don't even remember what comment I made yesterday that I was called that from some troll account. I like wanted to cry. That's worse than being called a cute show. Big dog, what's good? What's up, Nitro? How you doing, my man? Welcome to the end. You're coming in late. We're in the final five. We're in the wrap-up stages. You're late to the program today. Biggest collapse in NFL history. Philly teams always breaking the worst records to break. I was trying to explain this to my man Jason Sullivan, Jason, my golf partner on the Fairway to Heaven show, is going to join us on Friday's show for a little bit because he's a Detroit Lions fan. He lives in Detroit, lifelong Detroiter. He is going to join the show to help the final 30 minutes of the show help us predict the divisional round playoff games, specifically his Detroit Lions, but also the rest of the game. So he'll be joining the show on Friday to talk football with me, and I can't wait because love the guy, smart guy, gives us a different perspective. Forget blacklist. Lurie only hires offensive-minded head coaches. He hired Ray Rhodes. Yeah, that was 30 years ago. But he hired Ray Rhodes. So don't say he only hires offensive-minded coaches because he didn't. He hired Ray Rhodes. I'm just saying. It doesn't say only. He often, you should say, hires offensive-minded coaches. He prefers to hire offensive-minded head coaches, but he doesn't only hire offensive head coaches. Just saying. Kellen Moore being the pick, so help us. But it won't happen. Nick ain't going anywhere. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he does. I think he gets that opportunity. But that's not what the question is, will he? It's should he? And I think there's more of a case now after today made that he should be fired versus not fired. I don't get this whole, we're going to give you another chance, but you're going to be on a short leash. That narrative, that theory to me, is just wasting a season. Is he really going to fix the fractures this team has with him over the offseason and first 5 weeks? And even if he comes out the first 5 weeks and goes 5-0 next year, we're not going to have the confidence he's going to be able to sustain it. I don't know. I think it's a big mistake. Big mistake to go that route. I do. But not my decision. So today, we've got the exit interviews, the players, and then the coaches. I don't know how many coaches they'll get through today. Maybe by the end of the day, we know for sure that Brian Johnson and Desai and Patricia, maybe today we know for sure that they're all fired. At the latest, we'll know tomorrow. But we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow. We're going to bring Jalen Hurts into the conversation tomorrow. We're going to keep up with this. What would you prefer conversation? This year's collapse or a 7-10 season? Who knows what else comes up in the on social media? Okay, and not hired an offensive-minded coach in a quarter of a century. I'm just saying, if you want to speak facts, if I said that, George, you would have been the first person to point out that it wasn't only, that it was mostly. I got to hold you to the same level that you hold me. But we'll see what's happening in the world of social media. We got plenty of Eagles talk tomorrow. We'll continue dancing around the Sixers. Maybe I'll read a Flyers article or two today, so I can add some Flyers talk. I've watched a few minutes of Flyers action, but I'm still severely lacking in my Flyers knowledge at this point. And the Phillies, who knows? We're getting closer and closer to Phillies. To not know that firing Nick is the only option means that ownership is totally out of touch with the team and city. Yeah, you have a lot of Eagles fans, but it's not the job of the team, of Lurie and Howie, to appease the fans. The job of Howie and Lurie is to put the best football team on the field. Just so you know, they can't fire Nick Sirianni just because passionate, overreacting fans are calling for his head. That's not a reason to fire Nick Sirianni. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. I don't think he could fix the problem, Nick Sirianni, of this team. That's why I would do it. But you don't do it because the fans are calling for it. You making fan overreaction-based decisions dooms the franchise in any sport. Sirianni is a Lurie pick, fired him amidst failure, plus the record is good. Yeah, he'll justify it. He'll speak at his end of season press conference. and say changes need to be made, et cetera, et cetera. But I agree. He's not going anywhere. But he should be. The way Laurie runs the franchise with organization like a machine, I know he must be so frustrated with this team. And it's lack of organization and disorder. He's going to fire. See, and just when somebody makes a great point that he's staying, Mista makes a great point that he could go. And that's why these next 48 hours, while we wait to find out, are going to be intense. Really intense. Guys, we're going to wrap it up right there, trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, follow. You know the drill. Do all that great stuff. Help me out, please. Greatly appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, like I said. Everything's on the table. And we'll dive into the Jalen Hurts thing that everybody wants to say. That he's overrated, overpaid, and how I am not agreeing to any of that. You'll have to convince me. But I doubt you will. Guys, have a great day. Bundle up. Wherever you are, it's cold as hell. I bet you it's even cold in England right now. Overseas, wherever everybody is. Guys, have a great day. Go Birds. Go Sixers. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm Phil Stiefel. Have a good day, guys.